All right, how many people in here are vendors? Yeah, a couple. All right, good. So we got people in here. This is the first time we're actually doing awards in a ceremony like this, and a little bittersweet to be up here today. We got some great awards to help show the best in the show and what we got, and then we got a celebration here for a good friend of the show and of the industry, and that's Jake Adams, and I'm sure a lot of you guys knew him or knew of him or are here specifically for that more so than the awards. So we're going to take some time, have a few different speakers come up, and we're going to show some videos and kind of reflect a little bit on him. But in the spirit of Aquashella and everything he always did, he would be beyond excited to see what the show continues to do and grow. This year was super interesting. We had new stuff, new vendors, new people, and it's really cool to see it constantly grow. The frag off, which was one of his babies, in this show, went amazingly today, and it's amazing how much we've learned. And I know Chris is up here on stage with us. Chris and Adam worked together very closely on the frag off, and it's amazing to see how streamlined it got. I mean, you can never be 100%. You're always tweaking something, but it went amazing today, and I know Jake would have been super proud of how it went. So, yeah. I don't want to get teary up here, but he kind of did. All right, you ready? All right, we're going to give away some awards and try to keep this upbeat. All right, so let's start with the best freshwater display tank. And the winner goes to Fish Gallery. Fish Gallery for that giant, beautiful freshwater tank. Anybody from Fish Gallery in here? Oh, yeah. Oh, there you are. Come on up. Come on up and get your award. You guys want to take a second and talk about the tank a little bit, being this was a tank award? All right, let's see. Check. Here, I'll give you mine. There you go. Fish Gallery is going to talk just a little bit about the tank.
All right, so we brought our 96, 30, 48 tall, 600-gallon, completely custom on Seattle gray Chesapeake millwork, and then we set it up Thursday and filled it with fish on Friday. Thank you. And Roger, the owner, did all the deco on it because he loves to tell Dean and I that we're awful at deco. And pretty much all these tanks that we bring to the show, we do custom builds and sell them. That's the main part of our business.
All right, there you go. Big round of applause. All right, moving right along down the line, the best saltwater display tank goes to JBJ Aquarium. Not a lot of saltwater displays here this year, but JBJ got that one. Where we got JBJ coming up here, best saltwater tank. Excellent, guys. Thank you. Best saltwater tank. All right, best new product. And this one's really interesting if you hadn't had a chance to go over there. And I know Jen Williams says I say it just close enough, but I'm still off a little bit. But best new product goes to Ace BioOrb Earth, which has a really unique, and that was the one with the controller, right? Yeah, it has a really unique controller in it where you can set by the actual region you're trying to put in, and it'll reflect the moisture and the environment for what you're choosing. Super cool. That industry has a lot of opportunity, and especially with controllers and stuff like that. So big round of applause for Oase and their BioOrb Earth. Best new product. Ooh, fancy. Nice, thank you. All right, coming over, the next award is for Best Manufacturer Booth. And these guys, if you weren't around and saw the lines to their booth, now we're going to say why the line was so long, but their booth was not only awesome, it was a great display, but they went crazy and gave away 3 trips to Aquashella Daytona. That's tickets, airfare, and lodging. And ironically, yesterday on the very first, they had a line of probably 100 people waiting to spin. The very first guy walked up, spun, and won it. So they decided to give away a second one because everybody was so disappointed. So the winner of this is Seachem. Not only great products, but now amazing giveaway prizes. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Oh, wait. All right, moving down the line, we got our best saltwater booth, and that comes to Top Shelf Aquatics. Come on, Steve, get up here. Top Shelf Aquatics, as always, bringing in a beautiful booth and the fire for coral, traveling around all over this country, coming to these shows. Love seeing them here. Usually somebody from the staff is part of the events and the escape off and everything else. Good job. Congratulations, Steve. All right, then last but not least, we have the best freshwater booth, and that goes to Fish Gallery Aqua EL, their booth. Best freshwater booth. Coming up again. Who's going to... All right, folks, we're going to take just a minute here, and then we're going to get going. All right, folks, we're going to get started here. So as I said before, a little bittersweet to be here. We're going to now celebrate the life of Jake Adams, who was just a titan in this industry. You probably, no matter who you are in this industry, you've either heard something, read something, or had an opportunity to interact with him. I had the honor of working with Jake at the last Aquashella he attended before his unfortunate and untimely passing, and it was an honor to get an opportunity to work with him. So I'm not going to say a whole lot. We have 3 gentlemen up here who were just truly close, to him that are going to. We're going to watch some videos, and each video is by one of the gentlemen up here on stage, and then they'll talk a little bit about Jake and their experience with him in the video and whatnot. So we're going to start off with Chris Meckley from ACI. Big hand for Chris, and then we're going to start with the video, and then Chris will talk. But big hand for Chris regardless.
Multivariate my goals, but my favorite measure of success personally is the reefer's code. Is giving someone a frag of something that I collected and grew, or just grew from a frag, and I grew it to enough to the point where I'm able to just say, here, and take some good frags, good, visible, identifiable frags, not genetic samples, and share those with a friend. And, I have, about 10 corals I've had for 20 years. None of those I've had in my possession uninterrupted, right? Some of those corals, I traveled around, went to college, this and that. I shared them with friends. And then when I was back in a place to receive them, I got all these corals that were not, just not mind-blowing, not headline producing, but they just have this huge nostalgic feel to me. And So yeah, that's my favorite thing, man. Just getting some small frags, growing it out year 2, 5, 10, whatever it takes, and then finally be like, oh, here you go. I've been growing this for so long. This coral likes this light, likes this flow. It'll thrive under these conditions. Don't put it next to that. This fish will bite on. Just being able to have that story associated with the coral. The Reefer's Code is my absolute favorite measure of success. And that's why, I'm like, I've given away a lot of corals locally. I need more friends because I just don't like shipping coral. It's just like, here you go, just here, take it. And then it's really cool to go over their house and just see what they've done with it. Like your friend who just let it completely grow. No, he didn't let it go. He let it grow.
It's funny. When I look in my tank, there's quite a few corals that you and I have exchanged hands over decades,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say those corals are now several generations just established in captivity, right? Like they're here to stay for the most part. I mean, and I've given it away a million times because it grows. I don't know what to do with it, but to your point, it's such a cool feeling to know that coral has an established population that would be. You'd have to put some effort into getting rid of that coral in the hobby now. It's going to persist. So,
absolutely. As far as other measures of success, there's some other weird ones that I got some that will be more relatable. But another thing that I really enjoy is getting finicky fish to eat. I don't want to do this all the time. First of all, obviously I want the fish to eat whatever I give it on day 1, but 1, getting it to eat anything, and 2, getting it to eat flake and pellets. It's just so rewarding when you have, some kind of angelfish, some kind of butterfly fish, or some kind of tilefish that just really doesn't want to eat anything besides frozen food. But yeah, I really pride myself on training all of my fish to eat flake food and to eat pellet food, which is more affordable, better for the tank, and just easier to deal with. And, one of my tilefish, the purple tilefish, one of the best ones, took them a long time to come around, but now he eats everything. I know, experienced tilefish keepers will say they'll eat dory, but just having a purple tilefish that eats flake along with all the other reef fish, all of a sudden, I'm just not worried if I go a few days without feeding frozen food. I know I can keep him fat. I know I can keep him healthy. When a fish starts eating flake or pellets or prepared foods like that, I'm just like, oh, you're good now. You are set. You are set for the rest of your unnatural life in an aquarium, which hopefully will exceed the natural life in the wild.
Yeah, that one to me. I also love when you finally get a tank past that instability zone and it just gets into that autopilot zone,
where
I love that.
You're just not worried about, what's going on with that device, or is that coral receding a little bit, or, what's happening. Yeah, that is a good one. So I have it on here, like a medium term measure of success is getting past the ugly phases of a reef tank.
Yeah, exactly.
I do believe there are ways to really minimize that. But for example, when I set up a reef tank, I kind of pretty much expect, because I don't use that much cleanup crew, I pretty much expect some explosions of Valonia. And man, sometimes you're just like, how will I ever deal with this? And sometimes you don't. You don't have to deal with it. Sometimes you have one emerald crab for a 6-foot tank, and he'll just kind of keep it in check. Meanwhile, just general reef activity is not going to permit that animal, that creature, that living thing to really, really take over, right? You've seen tanks that had Valonia bad, but you haven't seen tanks permanently just overrun with something like Valonia. And I feel like the same way with hair algae. I field so many messages from people who are so desperate, and a lot of times I'm like, yo, you're probably you can do a couple of these things to just turn the ship a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Just turn the ship a little bit, and eventually you'll sail into smoother waters, and just don't worry about it. And one day you'll just look at your tank and be like, oh my God, it's self-corrected. So I really like what you're saying about the stability. Before somebody asks, I know somebody will ask, tell us more about what you mean and what the time frame is of that kind of the durability of reef tank that you're describing.
I mean, you hit it well on the head. I mean, some of it's the ugly phase, but I don't know. I think the first year of a reef aquarium can be somewhat tricky, right? And part of it is because you're messing with it. You're adding corals, you're adding fish.
Okay, so it didn't take me very long after Aquashella crew asked me to speak here at Jake's memorial to know exactly what I wanted to speak about. Jake Adams and I spoke a lot about the industry and where it was going and things that we thought needed to be promoted more. And the Reefers Code was one of those things that Jake and I practiced, as well as pushed other people to practice. And when we first started reefing 28 years ago, 30 years ago, that was how things were done. You know, there wasn't a dollar sign on every single coral. It was, this coral is really cool. You know, I grew it out. You know, my buddy's got a tank. We got to give this coral so I can bank it somewhere. Because if I have a problem and I crash my aquarium, you know, I want to be able to get that coral back. And if there's anything that I think is super important to pass on for Jake's legacy, and that is everybody should be practicing the Reefers Code. You shouldn't be putting a dollar sign on everything. And I think it had a lot to do with, you know, just the love of the animals and the fact that, what's that? Okay. It just had to do with the fact that reefing has changed and evolved just like every industry. But it doesn't have to always be about how much money can you make on a piece of coral that you have. It should be about what is unique about that piece of coral and why do I like that piece of coral. It doesn't have to be the most phosphorescent piece of coral on the planet for me to enjoy it. Jake and I had some of the ugliest, brownest corals that we both loved, and we passed them back and forth. And it's, people see them in my systems and they're just like, what do you have that for? Because I like it, you know. And that was, I think, a message that Jake tried to put out to everybody that is in the reefing industry. If you're new, don't worry about the fancy name. Do you like the coral? Because that's what this is all about. It's about the coral. It's not about a fancy name. And there's nothing wrong with the fancy name, but it's kind of disheartening to see somebody walk up to a beautiful coral, they like it, they ask the name of it, and there's no name on it, and they walk away from it. Buy it because you like it, not because of the name, because if you buy it because of the name, it's marketing. It means it's worth more money according to the person that's selling it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But be mindful when you're purchasing a coral. Just buy it because you like it. Unless you're in the business and you plan on taking those animals and propagating them and then opening a business or have a business, if it's beautiful and you like it, buy it. Put your own name on it. And I think that's probably where I'm going to end up, because Jake and I talked about this more than probably anything when it came to things that bothered us in the industry, is that corals don't get the love that they deserve. And they really, the industry doesn't even know the Latin names of these corals. And most people that are hobbyists have no clue what the Latin names are, but they know the fancy names. And when we lose the Latin names in this business, we're going to end up losing the entire industry, because if you aren't aware of what we actually have, it'll eventually fade away to nothing. So Jake was very adamant about that, and that kind of started off there. And just honor Jake by enjoying the coral. Don't worry about what the name is, and just love it for what it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Sanjay, you up next? You can sit for a minute for your video here. So we're gonna, or do you want to say something before the video starts?
Yeah, we can play the video.
All right. Next up is gonna be Sanjay, reefing icon. He can go through his credentials because I can't list them all out. But Sanjay Yoshi's gonna be up here next to talk about it. So Sanjay, you can say a little hi, and then we'll play the video, and we can get into your bit.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, I'm Sanjay Joshi. I've been a faculty at Penn State for 35 years. And I've been keeping reefs for about 33 years. So I've been here for a long time. And I've been talking a lot of shows, and I enjoy this. I enjoy the education part of it, right? And as an educator, you're always giving information. But I get most excited as an educator when I get information. And in this hobby, there are a few people that I have learned a lot from and who've taught me a lot just by hanging out with them, by chatting with them, by associating with them, right? And if I can go away from any event having learned something new, I think it's a successful event, right? And so with Jake, I've had lots of conversations. And here's a small story that most people don't know. I knew Jake before he was Jake, okay? Oh, sorry. So I knew Jake when I gave a talk in 2004 or 5. I can't even remember how far back. He was an undergraduate student at South Carolina. And we had finished our talk. We went out for dinner. It was 10 o'clock at night. We were chatting, and he said, I work at this coral lab. It's about an hour away. You know, do you want to go see it? I said, my flight's at 6 a.m. in the morning. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, sure, I'll go see corals. You know, so he took me to this lab. We stayed there till 1 o'clock, just talking about corals. And he gave me 2 frags. One, I don't remember what it was. It didn't last long. The other one was a dime-sized piece of sandolita. Till today, I still have that coral. It's the size of a dinner plate, and it's right in the middle of my tank, right? So it kind of goes, so I've known Jake that long, and I've never fragged that coral, okay? And I've kept it forever. Because to me, I'm like Jake. The corals meant something to me. All the corals in my tank are no fancy names. I don't do many Latin names either, but I know where I got them from or who I got them from. Right? So that to me, every coral is a personal story. And with Jake, I had a lot of those personal stories. And the video clip you're going to see is Jake videotaping my soft coral tank, okay, which I had kept going for 23 years and with hardly any water changes or anything. And you'll see in that conversation I'm having with Jake about the corals and how some of the corals actually came from him. All right? So if you can play that video, that'll be great.
Give me a personal tour, and it was awesome.
You got a ton of green polyp leather?
You remember that one? I
Yeah.
got it from you in Denver.
Yes, sir.
Way back when you first got me to speak at Reef Stock.
Oh, man, how many years ago was that?
I don't know. You know better about Reef Stock.
I was going to
than I
ask
do.
you, but now's a good time to ask you. You want to come to Reef Stock next year?
Sure.
All right, man. You know, so far we've only had speakers come once. So I think it'll be the first speaker to come twice.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, I picked these up in Denver. Brought them back with me.
What's that leather coral in the middle right there?
That's also yours. Remember you had this long polyp?
I still have it. Have it.
You still have it?
Oh, yeah. That's
So
a weeping
that was a
willow,
weeping
man. I would
willow.
never forget
So
that.
this is the frag
Yeah.
from you.
I'm just glad it's spread out.
It's not as long as the picture you once posted.
Yeah, maybe needs more water changes, a little more flow. And then you have a couple nasty parasites. You got this Paraerythropodium,
Well, it stays contained, and I kind of like it.
sort of, but you don't like the curlicue.
No.
So that looks like Aptasia, but it's
It does.
actually a Caribbean species called
Right.
curlicue anemone. And it's pretty until you have too much of it.
And nobody eats it. At least for the longest time, I didn't have anything that would eat it.
Regular butterfly fish won't eat it?
No, the one raccoon I had ate it. So if I find another raccoon now, I'll put them in here and have them
Okay.
feast on.
And then you have the so-called pulsing sinularia.
Yep, I had that for the longest time.
And
Ever
then
since
is that Grue-based gorgonian right there?
this one?
Yeah.
No, this is the gorgonian I got actually from Belgium.
That's Grue-based gorgonian.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same.
You can tell I don't know the names.
I don't care about names.
And then a couple beautiful strains of Palithoa.
Yeah.
Those are really nice.
Yeah, those are the cinnamon polyps.
I'm definitely going to have to shake you down, see if you got a loose one in there.
Well, you should have come a few months ago when I gave Chris a size that was like 12 by 2.
Chris who?
Chris Meckley from
Okay.
ACI.
All right. I'll
Yeah.
have to shake him down. And then some Suspicularia.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. I remember a time when Suspicularia was like the holy grail of soft corals, and now nobody cares.
I like
All right, so you can see from this video, Jake and I would always be trading corals back and forth. And same thing, the reefers code, right? We never sold corals to each other. We always traded. And he also, you can see I would ship stuff off to Meckley too. So Jake did get his Palithoa that he wanted from my tank, but he got it from Chris. Okay, but it was mine, right? So yeah, I mean, we've had great times with Jake. I love Jake. You know, I like to say I take credit for Jake being Jake, because I told you the story. So when I got done with talking to him for 3 hours at up to 1 a.m. at night, learning a lot, I told Jake, I said, Jake, you need to be a speaker at these shows. And I said, I can hook you up with these people who invite me, and we'll get you on the speaking circuit, because he was doing experiments on water flow at that time for his undergraduate research, and looking at how increasing the water flow was affecting photosynthesis and so on, the oxygen production in corals. But the hobby needs to know this, you know. So I got Jake on the speaking circuit, and then our running joke was he would present, I would present, and he would always say, flow is more important than light. So that's how that whole thing started. So I have good fond memories of Jake. I'm going to miss him. Thanks.
Thank you, Sanjay. All right, coming up to the podium here last, and Raj, you have a video as well, or?
I do.
Okay, all right. So cue up Raj's video. I'd like to introduce now Raj Shangadia, who is the owner of MRC and now the owner of Reef Builders, continue on with that legacy and ensure that everything Jake helped build there and put into that continues to grow and have really great people behind it. So Raj, without further ado, if you want to say a few words and then the video or whatever you want.
Yeah, this is. I mean, pay attention to some of what he's saying, but pay more attention to how he's saying it. That to me is the bigger impact in this video. So yeah.
What's going on, Reef Builders? I'm Jake Adams. Thanks for joining us on another installment on how to build a modern miniature reef aquarium in 2020. In our previous video, we showed you how to basically set up your aquarium. And in this video, we're going to talk about aquascaping the tank. So there's a lot of cool and interesting and artful aquascaping principles that you can bring to the table when you're really starting to put things inside of your tank. But before you can do that, it's very important to make sure that your tank and your stand is flush. So in a lot of homes, you might be able to take for granted that the floor is flat, but it's absolutely not the case here at the studio. So we actually spent a lot of time leveling tanks and stands. So we're gonna put the level here right on the glass very carefully and see that it's very uniform from left to right. But if I put it here on the side edge, you can see that it's actually leaning backwards quite a bit. So the front is a little bit higher. I'm gonna put some shims in the back. We're gonna make sure this tank is super square. And then we're going to take care of introducing you to some building materials for the aquascape of this aquarium. All right, so now that we have our tank and stand nice and level, it's time to come to the aquascaping portion of this video. We're fortunate enough to get some beautiful man-made life rock from Carib Sea. This is a new product from them, basically very three-dimensional in shape and size, texture, and colors. So we have a variety of rings, arches, and some of their other things, but the thing about a tank this size, it's only going to take a couple rocks. You definitely don't want to put too much rock. But before we get to the rock, the foundation of this aquascape is going to be the Carib Sea Araga Life. This is going to be just one of several ways that we introduce an established bacterial population to reduce or eliminate our need for cycling. So get it in the tank, and then we're going to take a look at these rocks and see which ones fit well.
I think Shopify has definitely helped us and many businesses get started. Actually, my wife, she was the one that brought it to me.
This is some uncommon knowledge that actually comes from the freshwater world. You don't want too much sand, but when I do have sand, it's kind of important to try to slope it from the front to the back as much as possible so that well, it'll add a lot more dimension to your tank, and it'll prevent all the waste and particles from getting stuck in the back. So when you have a small tank, this is about, what did we had? We had 20 pounds for this 20-gallon tank, just enough to cover the bottom, give it a nice little layer. So now we're gonna move on to the rock. Aquascaping is a topic that is very, very subjective, and there's so many different ways to do it, but honestly, every time I approach a reef tank, I rarely know exactly what I have in mind for the aquascape. But I want to give you just a couple just basic tools that you can use to put together your own aquascape. So in designing of just about any modern structure, buildings, architects, etc., you kind of want to break things up.
Yeah. So you see here, Jake talks about all these rules, right? All of the design principles, cutting the tank up into thirds, the rule of thirds, Fibonacci sequence, goes over all of that. But then he switches modes and he goes all Bob Ross. And he's like, but you know, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna make this happy little reef. We're just gonna put this rock right here. And him and I would talk about these aquascapes because I was notorious for being this minimalist in the rockscape. And he kind of talks about that a bit in the video. And my guys would always make fun of me. And we did these large systems. And they would take one rock and put it in the middle of the tank and be like, okay, Raj is done. But that's just kind of how I did it. And Jake liked a little bit more coral, more rock in there. But he goes in there and talks about, yeah, this is how I do it. But, you know, just do what you want. Now, when he started off and he poured the sand in there, you know, he pulls in the freshwater side. He was really big into pulling all these elements in from other parts of the aquatics industry. And there's so much on the freshwater side that he would pull from. So that, you know, sloping the sand, that's not something that we really do on the saltwater side, but it makes so much sense. So I always loved that. I love that he was, you know, the saltwater side gets this bad rap that we're super elitist because obviously saltwater is better. But there's so much cool stuff that the freshwater side does that we can really learn a lot from it. And Jake was so much into the education piece and learning and constantly wanting to improve, constantly wanting to get just better at what he does, better at our craft. And I'll never forget that. Like, I'm always wanting to consume more, always. But the way he does it, the way that he's so passionate, and look at his face. He's aquascaping a tank. And it's like he's playing with his favorite toys. He's 5 years old again, and he just discovered his favorite Tonka toy car, and he's just playing around. That type of energy, that was Jake. You know, that's what made Jake so special. You get all the knowledge, you get all of that, but that inner child inside of him that he just kept alive, when you're having that conversation with him, you couldn't help but feel good and feel happy. I wish I could still geek out about the little things in our industry and in the aquatics lifestyle like that. And you know, we got to remember to do that. We get so frustrated with all the little things that we forget to have that face and to have that attitude. Just smile the whole time. It doesn't work out one way, just kind of move something around, right? A happy little tree here or whatever. Just Bob Ross it. And Jake's our Bob Ross. But if you get a chance to check out the video, check it out. It's when you look at it from that perspective, it's really entertaining. And it gives you that real insight into how Jake was and that personality bit.
See here, I'm trying to bring all 3 rocks into one.
Thank you very much, Raj.
Just kind of cavity here, and
Appreciate
I definitely want to do the rock test where you just kind of
absolute
make sure
libraries
that
of work
everything is
still over
nice
at
and solid.
reefbuilders.com of Jake's videos, articles, everything else. Be sure to get over there, check it out. Just endless amounts of content, true educational. It was an honor to work with. Jake and be a part of this industry with him and get to share with him. I didn't have a relationship with him outside of this industry per se, but always enjoyed seeing him, having conversations with him, learning something or being a part of a contest or something here at Aquashella. So thank you to Aquashella for helping bring that to light. This was a very unique opportunity to do things like the frag off and other things that you don't see in other industries. But hopefully you all had an opportunity to interact with him in some capacity and he has enhanced your hobby just a little bit. So with that said, we'll wrap things up. Thank you, everybody up on the stage for sharing your stories and your time in the videos. Be sure to get over there, check it out. Obviously, reefbuilders.com. And thank you very much. We'll see you again.